Greetings! Hanging out here in camp, taking a look at a critical piece of outdoor kit, the knife. Now, what we're looking at here is the Mora knife companion model, and it ticks the boxes and fits my needs perfectly. It's a small, lightweight knife, has no moving parts, and a stainless blade. And that comes in really, really handy for various things. The stainless blade, obviously, it's not going to rust when it gets wet, and that's really, really critical. You can clean fish, you can be in a wet environment such as the coast and not worry about whether you're going to get your carbon steel blade all rusty or corroded because you got your wonderful chromium content in your stainless blade. Now, the Mora knife companion model is like 10, 15 bucks, depending on where you buy it. Therefore, if you lose it, you're not out $100 like one of those high-end specialty knives. And personally, I have used every kind of knife you can imagine over the years, from cheap folding knives to expensive folding knives to expensive fixed blade knives to cheap fixed blade knives. And they're all they all have problems, they all have issues. Carbon steel doesn't bend very well. It likes to snap when you try to pry things apart. It tends to corrode, and so you have to maintain it. And, it is harder steel than stainless like this. The chromium content that makes it stainless will make this metal a little softer, so it's more likely to bend than snap, which is handy when prying. The drawback being that the hard edge tends to hold an edge better when it comes to carbon steel. The stainless steel is softer, and so the conventional wisdom is that it will go dull faster. But with the Mora knife, the way that they've made their blade, there's a certain angle to it that even when you lose that fine, razor sharp edge, you can still whittle wood, clean fish, and do all sorts of things, and I have. This little knife here has been with me for years. I actually got this one used for 12 bucks at a used shop, but it was in perfect condition. It's almost in identical condition today after 5-6 years of extensive use, backpacking, trail use, even at home when I had a home. It's a great utility knife just in general. And one of the things I like about it is that it has a real fine point, so you can do real fine work with it, as opposed to like a big giant huge machete like knife. You're going to have a little bit of an issue making small holes in things if you have this gigantic knife. And a fine little point on this works beautifully. Now, one of the things that people complain about is the sheath on these, and that's not an indictment of the knife itself. That's just the carrying case itself. And with a folding knife, even folding knives, you're going to find yourself with a belt case often. They don't always have a belt clip on that folding knife, and the folding knife without a belt case has no place to put paracord. And you may notice that I have a good 8 or 10 feet of paracord wrapped around this knife sheath, and that makes that knife sheath a survival tool and not just a hunk of plastic. Now, I do have a gripe about their knife sheath, and again, the sheath is not the knife. So I love the knife, but the sheath itself and all of Mora's sheaths have a bit of a problem in that there's these little nubs on the inside that rest against this part of the knife. And when this is hard plastic, these tend to wear out faster. When this is rubberized, this tends to wear out faster. And you may notice that I had to put some layers of tape there to put those little sort of nubs inside to make them big enough to hold the knife in place. And now it stays in quite firmly, and I never have to worry about it coming out. But also being lightweight, you don't even notice it around your neck, and that's what this here is, my neck loop. I wear this around my neck or on my hip, and I don't even notice it's there because it weighs so little. It's a handy little knife to have because it's very grippy. It's very, very ergonomic. It fits in my hand wonderfully, and this sort of grippy rubberized handle on it is just like, I never ever slip with it. I've never slipped in any way with my hand on it. And being so sharp, I don't know if you remember my video of my talking about my worst injury backpacking. This was the knife where, after a day of working with it, woodworking, cleaning fish, doing all kinds of camp chores, the tip on it here went through the top of my little toe so cleanly it didn't even need stitches. It almost severed, just sliced it cleanly off the top of my little toe on my right foot. And that was after a whole day of extensive use. It just holds its edge surprisingly well. It's good stainless steel. And there are some complaints about the knife itself, such as that it does not have a full tang. What's a tang? It's the part of the knife blade that extends into the handle. And a full tang is one where the knife blade metal extends all the way to the base down here. The Mora knife companion model actually has a tang that ends somewhere in here. And so that means if you're pushing down here while holding here, this point here where it enters the actual handle becomes a pivot or a fulcrum, and it can actually, people feel that it can loosen the blade inside of the plastic handle, because basically the blade is just like molded inside this plastic handle with this rubberized coating on the outside of the plastic. And so especially when you're, trying to whack with it or chop with it, or even more so baton with it, people say, oh, you'll worry about loosening the knife blade. And I have batoned just like this into hardwood and dry wood to my heart's content, and not once has this knife ever come loose. I've done this for years on end, and they say never, ever, ever use a baton like this to beat your knife blade into hard or dry or dead wood, because it'll put too much pressure on the knife blade. But this blade is rock solid. It has never come loose. It has never come undone. And I'm really, really impressed with how sturdy this cheap little knife is. So even lacking a full tang, you can baton into hardwood and dry wood to your heart's content, and I have for years. So lacking a full tang isn't really that big of a deal when you make a knife as sturdy as the Mora knife. And, people complain about the stainless being, oh, it'll go dull faster. Well, the stainless doesn't just have the attributes of being rust-free and a little more forgiving in terms of bending or prying, but it also is shiny and reflective, and that gives you a certain advantage that you will not get out of your carbon steel knife, and that is that you can use it as a signal reflector. And one of the handy attributes of the shiny stainless isn't just for a signal reflector. It also can work as a sort of rudimentary flashlight. You can see here I've got my reflection there, and there's this log sitting here. You can actually shine the light in underneath the log and see into small holes. And so I'm actually giving myself a little bit of extra light here without even having to buy a single thing or use any flashlights or anything. It's completely free. All I needed to do was make sure I have a stainless blade on my knife, and the Mora Companion absolutely works great for that. A little rudimentary off-grid flashlight. Pretty cool. And so all in all, the Mora Knife Companion is just a perfect little knife for me. I've used it for years. I've tried other Mora models. I don't like them very much, like the Bushcraft model. I have one. I just don't ever use it. This little knife comes with me everywhere for everything. And I'm very, very happy with it. And I don't ever have to worry about, if I lose it or break it, I'm out $100 because I spent, $80 or $100 on some cold steel or Gerber or something like that. This is $10 to $15 pretty much anywhere. And so I don't mind breaking it, losing it, damaging it. And quite frankly, I have done whatever I want to it. I have abused it to my heart's content, and it just keeps going. And I really, really like this knife, and I think if you went for a Mora Knife Companion model, you probably would be very, very happy yourself. And they do come in other colors, so don't worry if you don't like the blue and gray. You can get all kinds of different colors, orange and yellow and green, and even, I think there's even a black one, so you can get it in colors you like, so it matches your outfit even. It's a wonderful little knife, and that's why even if this one breaks, I'm just going to replace it with another Companion model, and that is why all those attributes add up to the Mora Knife Companion being the one for me. So I think, if you got it, you'd be happy, and I've been happy for years, and I'm going to continue to be happy with this knife for years. So I want to thank you very much for joining me for a few minutes in camp to take a look at a critical piece of your outdoor kit, the knife.